So we move from competition to collaboration. This becomes the mechanism of the relationship. Now we're partners in the project of growing that part of ourselves that didn't get grown in childhood. So in a marriage, the primary feature is the ability to spontaneously play.
Well, hello, Helen and Harville. Oh my goodness. I can't even start to explain how honored and excited I am to have you both here today. I have been, for as far as I can remember, and I'm going to get a little choked up. But as far as I can remember, I've been such a fan of both of you and the work that you do and what you guys have created and all the love that you pour out into the world, into people. It is incredible. So first of all, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having us on.
Yes.
And thank you for your kind words.
Yes.
Thank you. And I wanted to read a little bit of a bio that I wrote before we actually get started with this interview, because for the listeners, I want them to know who I'm talking to today. And I want them to have a little background. So I'm going to put my glasses on. I'm going to grab my phone and I'm going to read this bio. And then we're going to have a conversation today. Okay. Is that cool?
That's cool.
Okay, here we go. All right. Today, I have the absolute honor sitting down with two of the world's most respected relationship experts, Dr. Harville Hendrix and Dr. Helen LaKelly Hunt. Harville is the author of the classic best-selling Getting the Love That You Want, a book that has transformed millions of relationships around the world. He holds a PhD in psychology and theology and has been featured on the Oprah Winfrey Show 17 times, with Oprah calling him one of the best relationship experts in the world. Together, Harville and Helen created Imago Relationship Therapy, a revolutionary approach that helps couples heal and connect on a deeper level. They co-authored several best-selling books, and their teachings have influenced therapists and couples across the globe. Helen also holds a PhD and is an acclaimed author, feminist, philanthropist, whose work has been empowering women and inspired movements for equality and love. They have been married for over 4 decades, raised 6 children, and continue to model what's possible when two people choose to grow, heal, and love intentionally. Welcome to the show. Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, you two. Honestly, I would love to be in person with both of you because I would just love to give both of you such a big hug because honestly, this is pretty incredible what you guys have done and what you guys continue on doing and how you provide so much value and love. And before we even get into all of that, I actually would love to know, how did you two meet? How did this all start?
Well, I was invited to by another woman who belongs to a church on Mockingbird Lane in Dallas, and the garage is filled with cars on Sunday, and on Saturday it's empty. But the garage is empty, but they occasionally have speakers come and give lectures on interesting subjects. And so this woman and I showed up. She said, Helen, there's someone is going to give a lecture on marriage. Why don't we go and listen to this man? So she and I went, and there were wrought iron chairs on the side for anyone who showed up to listen. And there was a green chalkboard at the back where the speaker was going to talk. And Harville came in, and there were 20 of us in the garage. And this guy Harville came in and said, well, yeah, I've been thinking about something, and I do have a lecture to share about marriage. First, marriage goes through stages. Um, and then he put stage one. He said, you look for, in high school, you look for someone to date. Then you look for someone in college, it's time to get serious about finding a love partner. And
Oh, okay.
college, you know, hopefully find, you're really now 20, blah, blah, blah. It's time that you can have children. So you're looking for a mate, a human being, a wife, if you're a husband, and a husband if you're a wife. And so then Harville said, now, people don't know, but marriage goes through stages. And when people are dating and they suddenly feel like, oh, that's the person that I would love to have as a wife. Oh, that's the person I would love to have as a husband. Both agree, and they go to a pastor, and this is what Harville said. So the pastor says, now, do you take this man as your lawfully wedded husband? I do. And the pastor says, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? And the woman says, I do. And he goes, well, you are husband and wife forever, happy ever after. And then he wrote romantic attraction, stage one. You've been attracted to someone romantically, but, and then Harville said, unfortunately, stage one is followed by, and on the chalkboard he wrote, we drew a line after stage one, and then he put at the top, power struggle. And he said, but then you go home, and what's happening a whole lot is people don't know what to do in the power struggle. But if they learn to listen to each other and act like they cared about the other person, they could get to stage three, real love. So Harville and I started dating and receiving funding from a family-owned business, Helen LaKelly Hunt. I have funding that I can give to someone else to make the world a better place, and we're assigned that job. And I think, whoa, wouldn't that be great if I could help marriages around the world?
Wow.
As you were making it known, the Bible says we should love one another. But especially in marriage, you want to have love in your home. And so we ended up figuring out the dialogue process. And then the crowds were growing. And then Harville wanted a book to be written about what he lectures about.
So my memory of how we met is different from your memory about how we met.
Yeah, you didn't meet me in the garage.
No, I
we
didn't.
Never met.
We didn't meet. I was just a public speaker, and she was a participant.
Yeah, I didn't talk to you, and you didn't
met
talk to me.
So my memory of the way we actually met is that we were both invited to a party that neither one of us wanted to go to, and it was a party that
I wanted to go.
You wanted. I didn't want to go. Okay.
It was for singles. Someone had the idea, let's get singles. Maybe they'll meet someone.
Yeah, but specifically, my best male friend lived across the street from me in Dallas, and his partner, not partner, but girlfriend at the time, or I guess date, and so forth. They had a relationship for about a year or so. She gave up on the relationship, but she was a very fine and empathic person. So she said, I'm really sorry to end our relationship, but I want to do something for you. I'm going to have a party, and I'm inviting 20 of the most beautiful, fine women in Dallas to the party, and
Wow.
only one man. So you can come and have the opportunity of interviewing 20 eligible, wonderful women all by yourself.
Okay.
It scared the daylights out of him. So he came across the street and said, Harville, this is what's going on. Would you go with me? And I said, no, I will not go. I've been dating. I'm tired of dating. I'm tired of women. I don't think I'm going to get married again. I'm thinking about going into a monastery and blah, 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 blah. I'm just worn out with the dating scene. And so he said, well, let me make a deal. You go with me. You drive your car. I'll drive mine. And in an hour, you can leave. And my anxiety will probably be controlled by then. So you can leave. So I said, okay, I can do that. So I'm on my way in 59 minutes out the door, and the door goes into a hallway, and Helen's coming down the hallway to go into the door to the room. I think there was a bathroom.
Yeah, no. There was a place where the women were seated, and they said, Helen, what kind of guy are you looking for? I said, well, I have a degree in psychology, and I've been taking courses, and I'm looking for like a psychologist. And they said, oh, well, Harville Hendrix is next door.
Yeah.
So I went next door just as he was leaving. And what I had done is at the beginning of being interested in psychology, the Goulding Institute has a summer program where you can learn anything about the Goulding technique of therapy. So I wanted to get a therapy degree, and I had gone and heard them, so I knew everything. And so, but then Harville was teaching a course on them, and I said, well, I don't have 3 hours credit at SMU, so I'll just sit on the back row and then turn in a paper and hope to get 3 hours credit. So I never met Harville.
No, and she never.
Helen, well, let me ask you guys this quick question. I just want to make this reference. When you saw Harville speaking at the college, and then now you guys are talking about this party, when you went to the party, when you saw him speaking at the college, and he was speaking on marriages.
It wasn't a college.
Yeah.
It
wasn't a college.
It was a garage.
Well, there are two times that you came to the garage, but you also were in the class that I taught on that topic, the therapy topic.
Yeah.
But you sat on the back row.
Yeah, I sat on the back row.
It was a big class.
On the back row.
On the back row, never did speak to me, and there was a door back there, and so she would come in and go from the back door, never through the front door. So I didn't even know she was in the class because 60 people, and I'm there for 2 hours. So you saw me 2 times without introducing yourself. I didn't know you.
That's
Until the party.
Until this party.
Until the party.
Well, what kind of guy are you looking for? And I said, well, I really am interested in therapy or helping people.
Yeah,
and they said, well, Harville Hendrix is next door. And I thought, oh, great, because I sat at the back of his class.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so when I went up to Harville as he was leaving, I said, Harville, I attended I'm single, you're single. Yeah. I attended your lecture at
SMU.
At SMU.
When
you were teaching on the Goulding Institute. And then I've also heard your lecture on the garage on marriage. And anyway, I think that we should start dating.
Well, a little later you said that. First of all, you said, I'm Helen Kryling. And
yes.
I'm on the way out.
That's my ex-husband.
Yeah, I'm on the way out the door. Yeah. So I said, because I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm leaving. And then I said, Kryling. Why is that familiar? And then it came up. You were in a class and you wrote the best paper in the class. That's why your name comes up. And I have it. I filed the best paper. in my filing drawer, and the best paper is always one from which I learned something. Most papers that students write, even at the graduate level, don't teach me anything. They just regurgitate, the books or the lectures. But Helen was creative enough so that the paper, I learned something from her interpretation of the material. So I told her that. And tomorrow I'll go, when I go to my office, I'll confirm this, that I do have. So I went and confirmed it and called her, and we started talking, and we haven't stopped, as you can tell, haven't stopped talking since.
Yeah. And you said, Helen, why don't you come to my office? I have your paper.
Yeah. So that's how we met, and we started talking. Discovered we both were divorced. Helen, by that time, was divorced about a year. I was divorced about 2.5 years. And so we said, how come you, as a Dallas wealthy woman socialite, and me as a professor at a university, are in a divorce? Why can't we, people like us should be able to stay married, should be smart enough for something. So we started talking about, why do couples fight? Why is there conflict? And that led over time, as we were dating, to getting into what finally became Imago Relationship Therapy. So we began actually sort of constructing it with these reservations at that time.
And so I want to share with you about my first marriage, Randy Kryling. So,
well, that was Helen. I want to hear about that, because that was the next question. I wanted to hear you. I know that you two met and you both were married before, but I wanted to know, how long were you married?
Yeah.
And
so anyway,
what was that like?
So I was at SMU getting a psychology degree, and a man named Randy Kryling was a law student, and he went to the place where female students can gather, and said, listen, is there anyone interesting that I could date? And they gave him my phone number. And Randy Kryling called me and said, Helen, why don't we start dating? And eventually we started dating, and my parents thought, Helen, this guy is a law student. You're not going to have to pay. He's going to make his own money. He won't be dependent on you. And I liked Randy. And I said, well, I'm not so sure. And then pretty soon, so many people around me said, listen, he's going to be a wonderful husband. Well, we got married, and I could afford a house in the neighborhood. Now, what I didn't know is Randy, he didn't even tell me he was going to do it. He called Hunt Oil Company and asked if he could work there. But instead of calling my brother Ray, he called Herbert and Bunker, and they were
half brothers.
Oh, anyway, my father had two families.
Okay.
Two wives.
Yeah. 2 wives.
And after the first Mrs. Hunt passed away, then Ray, June, Swanee, and I came along. But at first, Lyda Hill, Margaret Hill. And anyway, but Herbert and Bunker were doing an experiment investing in silver. And Randy, without telling me, called and meant to work. And this is not, I mean, like my brother Ray would not like that he didn't even work for Hunt Oil. And, but Randy just thought he was whatever I think is right. And so one day, we've had 2 little girls, and then the phone rings in our house. I picked it up. We need to speak to Randy Kryling. And I said, he's not here. Well, give him this message. He is fired and has to get a one-way ticket out of the country and never come back.
Or go to jail.
And there was, and we tell this story at our workshop, and people have said that this Hunt Oil Company company silver debacle is taught in business schools, that people were investing in silver and then it just crashed. So that's what my ex-husband did, which was why I was going to pick the next person I married.
You were going to pick. And how long were you married to the ex-husband? Well, how long were you guys married when that happened?
About 4 years.
About 4 years, yeah.
About 4 years.
Wow. So 4 years. And then after that, then you were like, okay, so then you had 2 little girls?
Yeah.
Yes, and obviously, I mean, Randy wasn't going to start a law firm or work in a law firm
Right.
and all the things that he said he was going to do.
Okay.
So,
and then
I wanted to pick the next one.
You wanted to pick the next one because you're like, okay, I gotta do this differently next time. So,
Yeah.
and Harville, did you have, when you were married before too, did you have any children?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
had 2. And my
So when
first marriage was 16 years to a nurse who was, she was a really good nurse. She usually ran nursing divisions in hospitals. So we divorced after 16 years, Helen after about 4. And we both have 2 kids. So when we
2
married,
kids?
we blended 4.
So yeah, so when you guys married and you guys came with, it was 4 children. So you had a lot of dynamics there with the 4
Right.
children.
Yeah. Oh, and when we were dating, we loved it because we got
Yeah.
the kids together.
Yeah. And did everyone get along pretty much?
We were not going to get married unless the kids liked each other. And they did. We, I will never forget, Harville loves nature walks and just having, and one of the daughters, she was interested in studying underwater life. And in Fort Worth, there is a place where there's a building you can go to, and there are fish.
Aquarium.
An aquarium. And so we would do that and just have the most wonderful lunches and dinners together.
So it was great before we married. After we all moved into the same place, it became a little tense. So
that was the next question.
That was the next. We had a challenge blending the
and so basically, the Dallas, everyone liked the lectures of Harville's, which I helped with a little bit about dialogue, and when I said there's not a book publisher big enough in Dallas, you want a book written, marry me, let's move to New York, and we'll get an agent to pick the best book publisher. Mm-hmm. And I'll have someone transcribe your lectures, and then that could be the beginning of a manuscript. So I cannot tell you my joy that I am married to someone who has written the book, Getting the Love You Want. And Oprah.
Well, co-written it. You're a co-author.
And when Oprah read it, I had an apartment at 1125 Fifth Avenue. The phone rang, and it was the Oprah Winfrey Studio. And they said, Oprah read Getting the Love You Want. She wants to interview Harville on her show. So Harville went on, and Oprah submitted it to the Emmy committee, and it won Oprah her first Emmy. And she had him on.
I didn't know that.
She had him on 17 times, and she has said, over the years, and she said, by the way, she has a love partner. She goes, Stedman and I wouldn't be married if it weren't for this.
They're not married, wouldn't be together.
I know.
Yeah.
I said a love partner.
A love partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When you guys, so this is fascinating. When you guys met, and both of you were already prior, you were married before and you had children, and Harville already said that he was like at a point in his life thinking, okay, I'm not going to do that again. He wasn't sure, and then you were a little more open. You were like, okay, if I'm going to do this again, if I'm going to do the marriage thing, I want to make sure that I choose. Right. Mm-hmm. So then you two meet. And, and as you guys already said from the beginning, you two had such a fascination with, relationships and love. And you guys started talking and really started discovering, okay, what is it? Like, how do people really have, a thriving, long relationship? And you started understanding when you guys started talking and you started talking about, your past, Helen, and Harville, you talked about your past. How did you guys start discovering really the difference between people not having that relationship that grows and they really feel that they are married to their best friend lover, and the people that struggle? What are the things that you start discovering?
Well, I think there are two or three things, but I think the core one that applies to everybody is the discovery that the patterns in marriage, the selection process first, and the patterns in marriage second, are all filtered through childhood, through our childhood experience. So that the thing that was shocking to discover is that most people have two parents, or they have a parent who serves both roles. And in either case, one parent or one role is more painful for the child, i.e., meets the child's needs less than the other, and that creates in the brain a memory, and the memory is about survival, because the baby, the early childhood, the only thing going on way down deep in them and in all human beings is, am I going to live or die? So
Yes.
babies are processing not with that kind of cognitive clarity, but
Yeah.
but with kind of their body and their emotions and so forth. So we don't know that when a baby is kind of upset, that something's triggered in the brain that says, I have to get a need met or I might die. So the one caretaker usually is better in one way with the child than the other one, or there are the pattern. In other words, there's always one caretaker who leaves more painful memories in the
Okay.
mind of the infant than the other. And what you would think is that when you grew up, we discovered the repetition process that
Yeah.
you'll repeat in adulthood, the childhood process. You would think that the selection process in adulthood for a partner to meet the unmet childhood need would be that you'd be attracted unconsciously to the parent who gave you the most. In other words, the one that wasn't painful and satisfied the need. But it's actually the opposite. The
Okay.
brain records the caretaker who was the most painful. That is, who didn't meet the need as well as the other person. Records that person at a deeper level than the other person, because the other person is not a problem. They're meeting the needs. The person who's the caretaker is not meeting the needs is a problem. So the brain has to finish this out and get the need met that at some point that was not met in childhood. So in the romantic process, the unconscious selects a person who is similar to the caretaker who didn't meet your needs in childhood. But you go toward that person in romantic love with the expectation that the need not met in childhood by this type of person will be met in adulthood by this type of person whom you're now meeting. So you're marrying the person who is similar to the deficient caretaker.
Is deficient. That's fascinating.
And expecting that they will be the efficient or one in adulthood. Now, this is all unconscious, so you don't know that's going on. You know that you got married and you had this, oh boy, now I'm married to somebody, I'm going to be visible, or I'm going to be seen, I'm going to be blah, 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 whatever the need was. And you'll expect it,
Mm-hmm.
and it won't come because you're married now to a person who's similar to the caretaker from whom it did not come. So they can't do it because they're like the person who didn't do it, who also couldn't do it because the caretaker's parents didn't meet their needs, and that goes back for generations. So then the impasse is, I expect you to meet my need for visibility, and you don't look at me when you talk, you don't show up, you don't blah 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 blah, and so I will repeat relating to a person who doesn't pay attention to me in adulthood, like the caretaker did not pay attention to me in childhood, but expect them to. And then they won't. And then the reverse is also the case. Both of us pick somebody who's similar to the caretaker that didn't meet our needs.
Okay.
But we both expect that they won't be that way. They will meet the needs, but they don't. So then we clash and we create what we call the impasse.
The impasse.
Yeah, you want something from me that I don't even know about. I don't know how to do that. I never had that done for me. And the other said, well, blah, 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 the same thing. So you have this impasse. And so that creates the power struggle in marriage. Right after the romantic love, when you don't meet the needs, you then go into, you got to meet the needs. That's what we do in marriage, is that blah, blah, blah. So that's how,
the power struggle. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the beginning of the theory of Imago Relationship Therapy, is that you marry somebody who's similar to the caretaker, who didn't meet your needs in childhood, and you expect them to meet the needs that were not met in childhood, and they don't because they can't. So it's not that they won't, it's that they can't, because their childhood led them to adapt in a different way. So that creates the dynamics of marriage, and that's wherever any attraction feature, romantic attraction feature occurs, that dynamic occurs across the world.
That dynamic occurs across the world. So, so let's break this down a little bit. So for you two, let's talk about that. So you two meet, and you, like you guys already said, you were married before and you're in a different stage. And then you guys meet, you get married, and both of you had children, and then you combined, the household with the children. Mm-hmm. When and how long after you guys got married did this start showing up for you guys?
Well, this started showing up for us before we got married.
Before you got married. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was also before we got married. We hadn't developed this theory, so we didn't. We didn't know what was going on. I mean, I'm a professor teaching marriage and family therapy, but the discipline of psychology does not have this information, and did not back in those days. That was like 40 something years ago. Yeah,
this is fascinating.
So we didn't know what was going on, because we had huge knockdown, drag out battles during our dating. In fact, I sometimes say to Helen, I do not know how we wound up getting married.
I do.
We had some of the biggest fights. For instance, the night before the wedding, we came home in the middle of a fight. Helen got out of the car, and over at the mansion she lived in, there was a long walk from where you parked the car to the back door. She got out of the car, slammed the door, and left me sitting in the car the night before the wedding. So
she's like, I don't know about you, mister.
I don't know about you, mister. So I don't know whether to show up tomorrow or not for the wedding. But then we call and talk and show up, and we all, sort of make our way through the wedding. But something connected us beyond the conflict. And that's always been really interesting, is we've had this core connection, but it's not like a romantic thing or a non-romantic thing. It's just connected with us, something about us that kept us together while we were in the worst of fights. And it was, but what's interesting is that in the worst of fights, I'm a clinician, a theoretician, and I do all kinds of research, that I would study us and come up with what we were doing, and began to put together Imago theory by looking at us, and also began to experiment with new things with us, which I think is sort of why we made it, is that we didn't just clash and sit there, but we examined what was going on and made some changes. And the changes, I was in a clinical practice, so I was working with couples, so I could go to a therapy session and experiment with something that I learned that Helen and I did, and see if it worked with another couple, and it would. Then I'd try with another couple and it worked. Then try it with 10 couples and it works. You realize you've got a new way to do therapy that works. It's working with you and working with them. The problem was you have to really train yourself to do the new stuff. And I was always in my head, more than in my behavior. So my big growth, get what you know into your feet. So you walk your talk. And that's been true for the past 43 years.
43 years. Well, let me ask you guys this then, for the listeners, for the people that are listening to this show right now. And the listeners truly are fascinated and have a growth mindset, and they really believe in a beautiful love story, a great love. There's no perfect relationship, of course, but they believe in a love that is growing and thriving and gets through all the things that life, the life will happen, right?
Yes.
So when you guys, as you said, you had this admiration, you had this love for each other, and then you started having lots of conflict, right? I want people to listen to this. We're talking to Helen and Harville, like, honestly, and I think it is just so powerful that we're even hearing from the beginning, you guys, that this is something that we all can learn. This is something that we all can shift in and do. We're not necessarily stuck. Because if you have them two who had all this conflict and realized, okay, we got to figure something out. We got to figure something out. And that's where you guys, this is what I want the audience to hear. Listen, if you are in a marriage and, it's not necessarily that you met the wrong person or you're with the wrong person. Sometimes it really comes down to, right? It really comes down to there's just awareness and skills that we are just not aware of. And let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people are in marriages, you guys, and they have struggled. And I'm hearing, what you said the struggle is. It's that gap part, right? It's that power struggle.
Yeah.
How can people start, and where should they start when it comes to if they find themselves in that situation? They're not connecting, Harville. They're not connecting the way they want to connect.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is there is some cognitive work you have to do, and some things you just have to accept. And one is that couples in conflict think that they, as you were saying, married to the wrong person. But what basically is that if you're attracted to a person with whom you are in great conflict, you have been attracted to the right person.
Okay.
Rather than the wrong person. And it's the right person because it's with that person you're in conflict that will activate the deepest level of growth. Because if there's no conflict, then there's nothing to learn. If there is conflict, then you have something to learn. So the first thing to say to everybody, if you're in conflict, that only means you're being presented with an opportunity to develop an amazing marriage.
Wow.
Because the energy that's driving the conflict can be converted into the energy that would create connecting and safety. So we have this phrase called conflict is growth trying to happen. But you have to do something different to make it happen. So the question then is, what do you have to do? And here's another fundamental awareness we had, is that as a couples therapist, now long ago, like 50 years ago, couples therapy was helping couples solve problems.
Okay.
About sex, about children, about where they're going to college, money, and all kinds of things. In other words, using your head to think through solutions to life problems. And that therapy had about a 30 to 40% success rate. So it was an industry that was failing, but since people are in such pain, they'll pay for stuff. And the therapist didn't know that it was not an effective therapy. What we finally learned was that it's not that you have to change the way you talk. And this was, how do you get? It's sort of like you have to change the way you breathe in order to take advantage of words, and you have to change the way you breathe to take advantage of oxygen, and which you can do it and change. You can change your neurochemistry with changing the way you breathe. But you can change your relationship by changing the way you talk. And talking naturally done is the most dangerous thing human beings do. because we create reality with words. And usually we create a reality of deficiency. You didn't do this, you didn't do that, you won't do that, you're that kind of person. We don't use words to create a different kind of reality. So the first thing that we began to do was discover it's not what you talk about, about sex and children and money and so forth. It's how you talk about it.
How you talk about it.
How
Okay.
you talk about tone, eye contact, the words you select, that you have to learn how. And the way most couples and most human beings talk is like this. I talk and you talk and I talk and you talk and I talk in order to counteract what you said or to give you something different. I'm the one who knows the truth. You're the one who has to learn the truth from me. And no, I'm the one who knows it. You have to learn it from me. So conflict is over difference. All conflict is about difference. And
Okay.
you see the world different from me, and therefore I am in conflict with you because you don't see it the way I see it. It's that fundamental. So, but we have to learn how to talk differently. So this is where Helen and I invented, early in our relationship, in the middle of this conflictual dating period, we invented what's called the dialogue process. And dialogue is not parallel. This is parallel monologue. I talk, you talk. Dialogue is I'm talking. Instead of you talking, you listen. And then you say back to me what I said. And you check and see, did I get it? And I say, well, some of it. Well, tell me what I missed. Well, you missed blah, 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 blah. So then I mirror that back. And I keep doing that until you say, well, you got it all. And then I say, instead of, okay, now I want to talk. Instead of doing that, I say, well, is there more about that? And that is the magic transformation, because now I'm not taking over. I'm going deeper into your world. And then I keep doing that. And you keep sending, I keep mirroring, you keep sending, I keep mirroring. And at some point, I will say, well, let me see if I'm getting everything. And I'll summarize. And when I get the summary, it says, is that an accurate summary? Now you see what's happening is this person is not being challenged. They're being shown curiosity. Curiosity is very sexy because it means you are interested in me. So then I'll go from curiosity, the summary, and say, well, now that I've got all that you said, I can see how that makes sense for you. I see your world the way you see it. And then I leave it there. I don't say, but it's not my world. Now, I don't have to agree with your world. In fact, there's no point in agreeing because no two people can have the same world. That's just a fact. But all people want you to have the same world, which is also a fact, but that's a delusion. The truth is, I have my world, you have your world, they are different. And if we fight about the difference, then we go into conflict. But if we collaborate with our differences, we create new things.
Mm-hmm.
New ways to talk, new things to do, new ways to make love, new places to go on honeymoon, on vacations, new ways to treat our children. So we move from competition to collaboration. This becomes the mechanism of the relationship. Now we're partners in the project of growing that part of ourselves that didn't get grown in childhood. Because we're safe with each other, we then are willing to be vulnerable with each other. And when we start doing that, we find new things show up for us to learn and do, and we do them. And ultimately, the childhood needs go away, and you live fully in an adult world. But they don't go away unless you give up the competition of who's going to win or who's right. It's just that simple.
And that's called monologue.
This is monologue.
And this is where no, shut up. I know what's right. No, you don't. I don't. I know what. No, I know what's right. And this is people just having conflict.
It's like when Helen and I was telling the story of how we met. I have a totally different story about how we met, but both of our stories are correct.
Well, yeah, you didn't meet me in the garage.
No.
I heard you.
Right. I'm just saying we have different views, and that's the way it is for everybody on the planet.
Mhm.
No two
You know
people.
what I no two
Spirit.
people are like, when you guys are explaining the process of really, and I wholeheartedly believe that communication is truly the fundamental of a relationship. And the
Yep.
way that you just explained it, honestly, it
Mhm.
was so kind.
Yeah.
It was so kind. It,
Mhm.
it it literally just warmed my heart because I'm like, that to me makes so much sense.
Yeah.
How you slow down,
Hmm.
how
Slow
you were
down.
like, slow down, how
Mhm.
I love that you said, and we started getting a little more curious about each other
Hmm.
and start going deeper and asking questions. Do you know that I believe I wholeheartedly, I know that why you guys are doing what you're doing and what you wrote, and it's extraordinary. That alone can change any relationship.
Hmm.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
No question.
Oh my
Anyway.
goodness. So let me ask you this, guys. What is the difference then with people that are willing, because I want to go take you a little back again, people that are willing to do this work, because it really starts with yourself. It really starts with ourselves, slowing down, seeing how we are talking to one another.
Hmm.
And you guys, when you met, you guys talked about how, in the beginning you had all this conflict. And then Helen, the night before you get married, you guys were in this conflict. How did you guys go from that to really slowing down and being kinder to one another and start talking instead of talking at each other? How did that shift, Helen?
I don't really remember uh, really bad times in our marriage. I mean, I felt like we were using the dialogue skills.
Well, but we did. So we see it differently because we almost divorced twice.
I know.
So we
I
were
know. I
not
know.
using
There
the
were
dialogue skills.
times. There were times. But um, oh, and there's the most wonderful story. Um, when we had our divorce papers, and we told our kids we were divorcing, and we told some other people, Harville said, "Well, Helen, now the kids have moved out. Why don't we have lunch in New York, maybe once a week?" And we were living outside of New York, and I said, "Oh, okay." And we we had a lunch, and then I said, "Harville, why don't we go to the bookstore, and there are all these academic books and psychology books that we know about. Let's see if there's another part of the store." And there was I said, "Let's go someplace we've never been before." And there was a section that was on um,
Astrology.
astrology, and that said astrology for couples. And I said, "Harville, astrology for couples." So we sat on the floor, and we opened it, and it took your one person's astrological sign, and then
Yeah.
the other person's astrological sign, and gave a message. So I'm Aquarian, and Harville's Virgo, and we looked up Aquarian and Virgo,
Okay.
and there was a message to the couple. It said, "Now your marriage has the least chance of success of
Oh,
any of the other couples due to the unrelenting scrutiny you do to each other." So we decided to really focus on giving each other appreciations and
Yeah.
da da da.
Yeah. So to put that
oh,
formally,
So then we had a remarriage commitment.
what we
yeah.
discovered that negativity was what was driving our relationship. We were almost bonded through our negativity, but
Okay.
we'd reached the point that we didn't want it anymore, so we got to get a divorce. This bookstore thing is like God dropped something in our lap
Oh,
of
yes.
field we would never have paid attention to because it was zero interested in astrology. More interested in it now than I was. Then it was just a lark. But it was like somebody has been watching us. So what we did was we created a concept called zero negativity. And we
Okay.
decided to practice zero negativity and and rate ourselves each day about the negativity in our relationship.
Oh, and so then Harville said yes. Now, I think at drugstores, they have a calendar.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's get a calendar. And at the end of every day, did we make it through? We'll do a check mark. And when we, if one of us didn't feel seen, loved, and cared for about, we'll do an X mark. So I went to the drugstore to get the calendar. And then I saw, oh my goodness, I'm going to take this home too. I decided to do something funny because we never laugh. We never,
Okay.
we don't have time to laugh. We're changing the world.
We're changing the world. We're so
Women-
serious. Yeah, yeah,
Women's
yeah.
philanthropy. And so, but there was a metal glasses with a rubber nose and a mustache. And I bought 2 pair, and then there were some joke books. And I thought, look, Harville, why not before we go to sleep, we put on our Groucho Marx glasses and tell each other some jokes.
Yeah. So the zero negativity.
Oh, and then there was that word we discovered that once upon a time in the dictionary, there was a word called solely, Soelly. And it was a combination of holy, solely, holy, and
Holy soul. Yeah.
and
Holy and
silly and holy. It
Yeah.
was being, and so
That's so cute.
for years, solely, Soelly, was in the dictionary.
Yeah.
And then eventually they took it out and put in silly and holy.
As two
But
different
we
words.
think if you want to be more holy, you should be more silly.
Yeah.
So
More
have
silly.
fun. Figure out how to get joke books and have
Yeah.
fun in your marriage.
So I think that's the thing is we went zero negative. We said we got to get negativity out. And then we have to add something, which was humor. And then we had to learn to listen and listen without judging. And those 3 things were the mechanism that finally got us to the point where we said, well, looks like we can do this. So why don't we have a recommitment service? So in 1999, on December the 31st, we had a recommitment service at the Riverside Church in New York City, and a big
that's
party,
so cool.
in a
Imago therapists flew from all over
Yeah,
the
we have-
country, and many other countries because we were not divorcing.
yeah.
They wanted to.
Yes.
We said, if anyone wants to come after the recommitment ceremony, we're going to have a banquet. It's December 31st. No one has any work to do the next day.
And when you guys had the recommitment ceremony and then you guys decided, okay, we're going to figure this out. How long were you married already to each other?
20 years.
So you were married 20 years and then you do the recommitment. Okay, this is fantastic. Okay. Yes, I love this.
Then about 10 years later, we decided, well, we were not making it. Then we had to go through. We didn't do another recommitment, but we started to really put the dialogue process into our work and into our relationship all the time. Like I never start a conversation with Helen without asking her, is it okay to talk about
Are
something?
you available?
Are you
at
available?
this
So we
time?
do now mechanically the dialogue process. And what that does is it regulates our feelings and thoughts. And we also know that we're going to do that so we can predict. The brain is a predictor. And if the brain predicts that it's going to be safe to talk, then the brain relaxes and we connect. But if we do it in a way that the brain says, not going to be safe, then we don't relax. We stay defensive and disconnected. But I think that's what finally works is zero negativity, listening without judging, and having fun. And that's the magic formula, we think. And we try to teach.
That's a beautiful formula because what I love about it is the simplicity of it,
Yeah.
the kindness of it. It's not complex. It really, I mean, honestly, it makes so much common sense. And I think
Yes.
that's what we need. I'm not even kidding you. I think as a whole, we need some simplicity, some common sense to things that we can actually apply into our relationships so we
Yeah.
can have thriving relationships. We can have good relationships. I want to know, both of you, I want to ask you guys this question. What would you truly consider a healthy, thriving relationship? What does that look like? Because so many people are in
Well,
relationships.
yeah.
Yeah.
We hear the phrase that people should feel seen, heard, and cared about.
Hmm.
That if they feel seen, and we have actually connected a connecting at work a dialogue process for corporations to buy, which they've been doing recently, and a lot of CEOs are frustrated. They go to work and another person's resigned, and but then if people are taught the dialogue skills, they mirror each other back. They, oh, that was really a good talk you did. Everyone enjoyed it, and give people compliments for what they, if they did something positive, and
Yeah.
and that this is solving the problem of people resigning
Yeah.
from companies.
So in a marriage, the primary feature of the thriving relationship, there are two
Yeah.
kinds: the survival relationship and the thriving relationship. You can survive but not thrive.
Got it.
Or you can thrive and then you don't worry about surviving. And the primary feature of that is the ability to spontaneously play.
Oh,
Because what that means when you break it down is I'm safe enough with you to act silly, to drop my defenses, to engage you into, silly stuff. And that is like going back to childhood. Children who feel safe spontaneously play. Those who don't always wonder, is it okay to play? Or they don't play. They if they do. So what the words we put to it is, if you can spontaneously play, you probably feel safe in the relationship. And you
wow.
probably live in curiosity rather than judgment. So you're curious about how was your day rather than why in the hell are you late? And let me just
And we
finish.
have a brain book on Kindle,
Yeah,
and it's about when you uh, when you have healthy relationships, how it impacts your brain.
yeah,
And the my favorite brain scientist is Dan Siegel. So basically, monologue keeps you alive. It tells you when it's time to go to sleep. It tells you when to wake up. It tells you you're hungry, you should eat, and it protects you. It's all about me needing what I need, and that's smart because you got to take care of your body. But for dialogue, for relationships to work, uh, you go to the neocortex and you mirror someone back with the left brain hemisphere and the right brain hemisphere. Is there more about that? Oh no. And then Dan Siegel is my favorite brain scientist. And he said between the left brain center and the right brain center is the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, where you wonder, you just wonder. And that releases a dopamine, acetylcholine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and you're a healthier person than if you're frustrated when you go to sleep, cortisol, adrenaline, and you wake up feeling horrible.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
We definitely need, no, that's fascinating how you said that, because there is this part of us, play, childhood like play, silliness, fun,
yeah,
how that really shapes the energy and how you actually show up with one another. And I
right.
really believe that. I talk to so many people in relationships and the dynamics, you know, and there's not a lot of play. That's interesting that you guys said that. It's a lot of seriousness. Why are we so serious? People
Yeah.
get so serious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And
say if it's not safe, it sucks.
yeah, yeah. If it's not, that's good. That's good because it needs to feel safe, right? And having
Right.
safety to me is being able to have that silliness, that vulnerability, to be able to communicate with someone. And just
Right.
like how you guys explained and how you guys created that in a way that both people don't feel, oh, you know, it's more of a transaction. They feel that they're actually being heard.
Mm-hmm.
So for the listeners, you guys, I know, oh my goodness, let's not get off of the show today because I feel like we're just starting. I'm just playing with you, I know. But you know, really, I want to know this. Do you feel then in relationships, as you talked about, it's not necessarily that we are married to the wrong partner? It really is coming down to these key things that you guys talked about. Because I want people to understand that I think a lot of people are in marriages and they might think, oh, you know, I'm married to the wrong one, or was just too much conflict, or maybe, you know what I hear a lot, the grass is going to be greener on the other side. What do you guys think about that?
I would like to share something.
Please.
So, a favorite moment of mine is when we do a weekend workshop where people sign up because they don't have the love they want. And they sign up for a Getting the Love You Want workshop. And there was one time that was very unique. And I've never experienced this before. And Harville has no idea what I'm going to say. But what we usually have, Harville, there's a stage where he has PowerPoint slides that he is able to click on. So we usually have like 70 couples in the room, or
something like that.
Sometimes more, but usually at least 70. But and the couples sit in a
U-shape.
Harville has the Kripalu put the chairs in a U because he loves to lecture, but he likes to walk around lecture.
Yeah.
And then I do a little of that also. But so this was this very special moment when the workshop started. A man came. He was a businessman, broad shoulders, a white shirt, gray trousers, and he had a beautiful woman behind him, beautiful blonde, and obviously wealthy. No one else was dressed like her and they sat there. And Friday night, we talk about the dialogue sentence stems and use them, giving each other an appreciation. That's how you learn the dialogue sentence stems. So the couples do that, and then that night, and then the next morning, they say, no, Harville will walk around and say, now, how was it to get an appreciation? And couples raise their hand and they talk to the whole room and da-da-da. And then the second day after the first evening, then the next day is their a breakfast and a lunch. 3 sessions. I'm sorry. They have breakfast and they show up in the room, and the chairs, they're used to being in the way the chairs are, and they sit usually in the same place. And we did learning how to convert a frustration, zero negativity. You convert a frustration into a request, and then a couple other things. And then on the third day of the third morning,
Sunday morning,
it is, isn't it about having positive things at home?
It's
Just,
yeah. Affirmation.
Okay, affirmation. Oh, that's right. The positive
Absolutely.
flooding. Yeah, we do the positive flooding. So this man kept sitting there, and he never raised his hand, and she never raised her hand. But one of the things we love most, and the when people leave the workshop, they said we loved hearing from the other couples. So Harville and I encourage other couples. Is there anything you want to share? And people raise their hand and say, I learned this, I learned that. Well, this couple never raised their hand the whole time. Broad shoulders. I mean, a great businessman, you can tell. He's so
Right.
beautiful. I thought, well, they're not having any problems. And at the very last day, at the very end, he raised his hand. And I
Okay.
said, oh, yes, wait just a moment, don't leave yet. And so he took his wife, and this has never happened. They usually don't go into the center of the room. But he went in the center of the room, and he said, we want everyone in the auditorium to know these are our divorce papers. And coming to this workshop was the last chance. And he tore them up and then took his wife's hand and sat back down. So
Oh,
this is,
Helen, you just gave me goosebumps. You just gave me
well,
goosebumps.
my life is so wonderful because I picked a man to marry who was going to make other people feel better, but I feel better too.
So I've just noticed we are going to have to go.
Oh, oh,
I'm
no.
sorry. It is fun, but we're about 20 minutes past the hours. So,
So
how would
before
you
we
like to close it out?
So how we end this, oh my goodness, what a treat this was. I want to know, first of all, for the listeners that are listening to you two and getting to know you and obviously have known you two, and they want to have a relationship that's thriving and they're not necessarily having one. Where should they start? What book should they get? Where should they go? How do they get into your world? What do you guys suggest they do? Because I mean, honestly, you two are just incredible.
No, thank you. Well, I think the on-ramp would be to go, there are three things you can do is go to our website, harvillandhelen.com, and you'll get a schedule of what we do that you could come to, like the workshops. If you want to learn dialogue, not as a married couple, but for yourself and want to teach it, to go to a place called safeconversations.com, and that'll train you. You don't have to be a therapist to go there.
You can sign up and get trained in using dialogue, and then you can also sign up to teach other people dialogue.
Oh.
So the book to go to is to go to Amazon, which is the bookstore of all time, and get the book Getting the Love You Want is the core book. That's the one that's been out for 35 years and sold about 4 million copies, I think.
Wow, incredible. Getting the love that you want. And in that book is what you guys obviously discussed today with the dialogue and okay, perfect.
All of that is
all
there.
of that. Okay, you guys get that book, Getting the Love That You Want.
Yeah. And if you are want to learn dialogue in non-intimate relationships, our last book is called How to Talk with Anyone About Anything. And that's also at Amazon. And you can be trained, as Helen just said, to work with non-intimate populations by going to the safeconversation.com website.
Mm.
So,
and I want to say something before we end, given that you started with prayer, that I have a son-in-law who's a theologian. His mother passed away when he was, I loved his mother so much, but she passed away, and he calls me Mom. He said, Mom, the way to live life, 3 words, faith, hope, love. So I had a baseball cap made just to market it. And then Pope Francis had created Scholas
Which
in
is a youth
Argentina,
organization.
in Argentina, where he had been telling other people. Now, young people seem sort of anxious and depressed. Don't tell young people to do. Ask them questions and say, "How are you feeling today?" And when they answer, have them say, "Well, is there something I can do about it?" But this spread throughout Argentina and 2 other countries near Argentina. And the Vatican heard about this.
Ooh.
And they asked him to be, they told him that the bishops had voted and they want him to be the next pope. So he went, and I don't even think Harville and I knew about this, um, that there was a Pope Francis, but well, someone contacted me one day and said, "Helen, the dialogues, Pope Francis is teaching young people to have healthy ways to have a conversation. I think they should be taught the dialogue skills. Could you put some funding into Scholas, and then the funding can go toward the kids learning the dialogue skills?" I said, "Well, yes. I mean, the Bible's all about faith, hope, love, and absolutely." So then, then we got an invitation in the mail to come to the Vatican, and I was wearing this hat, and on the last day, we met some people who are part of Scholas on the day of recovery, and then the second day we were with them, and the third day the Pope Francis was going to give the lecture in the Vatican. And when we went inside, everyone was lined up, and here's where he would give the lecture. And they said, go to the back of the line. The Pope is in a wheelchair now, and he wants to see who's in the room. And a woman who works with Scholas said, "Helen, now take off your baseball cap and put it in his lap." I said, "Oh, no, Amanda, I'm going to say this. Harville Hendrix, he wrote the best relationship book in the world." She said, "Just take off your baseball cap and put it in his lap." And so I happened to have, so then the wheelchair, there were
Look
about
at you.
there are about 30 pictures, and I've condensed it into 3 pages. But anyway, when he looked down, and the men with Amanda said, "Listen, Amanda knows the Pope better than us. If she says to put it in his lap, put it in his lap." So when I put it in his lap, he put it on his head. I never saw that one again. But then I've had more made for the head of my finance team wears one now, and other people that want
Oh,
to bring
Helen.
other
Oh,
people that want to
Helen.
bring faith, hope, and love in the world.
So Helen and Pope Francis established a relationship in 5 to 7 minutes. He paid no attention to me, so I'm pissed.
But
He's
the
like,
dialogue
nah, I
skills,
like Helen. Yeah.
He liked Helen.
but the dialogue skills are being taught
Yeah, but
to everyone.
he and I didn't become buddies. Y'all became buddies.
Well, that's what
Helen did. Helen did, Harv. But it's okay. You connected to her, so you got a little connection there, Harville.
So through you, I get connected to the Pope.
There you go. Through Helen. There you go. Oh,
It's always been
you.
that way.
Well,
Yes.
all I know is when people have been taught there's a different way to talk,
Yeah.
then they don't know that.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
more we can get the
So-
word out, people love it when they're invited to change and talk a different way.
I love
So-
that. No, thank you. I know you guys have to go. I'm gonna give you the last word, and then I'm gonna end it, because truly this has just been just an honor for me. I want to say this to you guys again. Like, it has been an honor for me to talk to both of you today. Thank you. I mean, and the love that you share and your heart, I just feel it. I feel your heart. I feel your love for each other. And I really believe you two are just incredible. Is there anything, I know we're keeping you long today, that you guys want to share before I end this podcast?
Well, I think the last thing is that the final truth is for relationships to work, you have to listen and accept until you get who the person is you're married to, because most of us live with a fantasy. And
Yep.
that's why we have conflict, is we think you should be like I think you should be like I think you should be, or you are like I think you are, which you're not. Listen until you discover who you're in a relationship with, then accept them without judgment.
Mhm. And I will
And that will do
close.
it.
I will close with there's something you can purchase that isn't expensive that you would really enjoy going through the pages. It's called The Healthy Brain.
Yeah.
And it's about when you use dialogue, the difference, we call it the crocodile brain, the lower brain monologue, and the wise owl brain.
Yeah.
It's got cartoons and it's a delight to read.
Yeah.
So you might,
Oh,
So if you do the work I was talking about, you get a better brain.
and
you
it's
get a better brain.
so it is purchased on Kindle.
On
Sorry,
Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Honestly, thank you. You guys get the book, The Love That You Want, get in their world. I hope that you are listening to this today and there's so much hope for you and all of us, because it really comes down to awareness. It comes down to kindness. It comes down to real communication. And that's a skill, you guys, that we can all learn. It's really a skill that we can all learn. So thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you again.
Moving from monologue to dialogue, and anyone listening, Brain Book on Kindle, the Crocodile Brain and the Wise
And what is that called again? It's called The Brain Book.
The Healthy Brain.
The Healthy Brain.
A Healthy Brain. Okay. And then make sure you get the love that you want. That would literally change your relationship. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And till next time, cheers to great love. If you're loving this podcast and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode, because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.